They said it was a ghost fleet. That's what the first recon ship sent before going silent. This isn't an armada, it's a graveyard possessed. Then nothing. Just static. 212 seconds later, orbital sensors on Thren 9 caught the first distortion. Something massive slid into real space, without hyperspace trails, without warp compression, without a single ion signature. It just appeared. Then another. Then 287 more. The stars blinked and the darkness filled with shapes that should not fly. Silent things, jagged hulls stitched with fleshy seams, and beneath the metallic mass, something breathing. The Galactic Empire had faced countless rebellions. But this made admirals sweat through ceremonial armor. Commander Elias Rook had been rotting in a frozen cell for 11 years. They brought him out, not with a pardon but with a pistol to his jaw and orders barked by a trembling lieutenant. "You're going to talk to them." Rook laughed until he coughed blood. Talk to what? That fleet wasn't responding to hails. It wasn't transmitting coordinates. It wasn't even armed in the traditional sense. But then, ships started dying. Empire destroyers, snuffed out mid-orbit, sucked into themselves like metal lungs imploding. AI command cores fried in synchronized neurostorms. Autogunners jammed by psionic pulses that made steel bleed. And the dreadnoughts didn't fire weapons. They touched. Hull to hull. And when they pulled away, Empire's ships dissolved into rust and bone. In a flickering war chamber, Grand Strategist Varen stood before the projection of the fleet and whispered, "They bear Terran marks." The room went silent. Rook, barely clean and still stinking of old blood and salt, raised a brow. "Terran? You mean human? We're not extinct, sweetheart. You just buried the wrong ones." They didn't want him. They needed him. And they hated that. Earth was a conquered sector. No fleets. No armies. Just archives and submission. But 30 years ago, during the final collapse, one fleet vanished. The Ouroboros Protocol, classified beyond death, dismissed as vaporized in the null rift. Rook had served under it. Had bled for it. Had lost his brother to it. He stared at the living armada hovering outside Thren 9 like silent predators watching prey forget how to run. "I warned you," he muttered. "You took our planet. They took that personally." A low chirp. Fleet control was losing full system control. Lights dimmed. A smell, ozone and rot, seeped through the venting systems. The room darkened. And then sound. A voice across every open comm, radio, and neural band simultaneously. Not speech. Breathing. Rhythmic. Purposeful. Then one word. English. Old Earth dialect. "Execute." Then silence. And the attack began. It wasn't flashy. It was surgical. First, the long-range turrets turned inward, triggered by ghost codes slipped through sublayer firmware. Then the primary AI, Oracle 16, began screaming coordinates for non-existent enemies, triggering friendly fire across the planetary orbit. Rook stood in the center of the chaos, arms crossed, as admirals collapsed into confusion and panic. "You don't understand who you're fighting," he said, staring at the slowly approaching bioships on the holomap. "You're trying to stop people who already accepted their own extinction." A young officer screamed as her neural link overloaded, her eyes pouring blood. The symbiote ships didn't just fight. They invaded. Thought, circuitry, biology. All the same to them now. One of the ships began broadcasting a message, binary burst code, across all frequencies. Rook listened, jaw clenched. He recognized the pattern. 8 pulses. Then 13. Then 5. It was his brother's birthday. "I know who's commanding them," he whispered. They brought him to the central comm chamber, hooked his mind into the transmitter mesh. He pushed past the encryption barriers and fed a voice channel into the madness. "Cade," he said. "If you're in there, if there's anything left of you in that twisted metal corpse, call them off." The reply came instantly. Crisp. Calm. Too calm. "Elias. You still sound angry. I hoped you'd have learned. But then, that's the thing about fossils. Rook's fists clenched. You started a war. We ended a silence. You're not human anymore. No. I am what humanity becomes when survival matters more than memory. You stayed. You bowed. We built. They're not ready for you, Rook said. They weren't ready the first time either. That's the problem. All across the orbital defense grid, Empire's ships began crashing, one by one, methodically. The bioships didn't pause. They moved with rhythm, like a single entity. No comms. No formation breaks. A machine organism born of flesh and vengeance. Rook stared out the viewing port as the largest ship, covered in scorched earth flags and tribal glyphs, loomed closer. Its outer hull shifted constantly, organic plates sliding like scales, exposing weapon arrays that seemed more biological than technological. You're going to start something that can't be stopped, Rook warned. Even you won't survive the end of this. I don't want to survive. I want them to remember. The link severed. Outside, fire bloomed from the remains of a fallen orbital bastion. An entire city gone in one blast, imploded from within, no trace left. Just ash and bone. Elias turned to the Empire officers, now white-faced, silent. You thought you killed us, he said. You just gave us reason. A lieutenant finally dared to speak. How do we stop them? You don't, Rook said. You talk. Or burn. But if you choose war. He paused. Don't miss. Because they won't. The Empire's dreadnoughts hovered at the edge of annihilation, 300 hulking bioships emerging from the void, silent and dripping with black ion ichor. They bore no flags, no hails, no demands, just crude human words burned into their hulls. We are back. And the worst part? They looked human, but every Imperial admiral swore, no way in hell they still are. The first orbital line fell in 23 seconds. By the time the Empire's War Command could even acknowledge the breach, 6 cruisers had already imploded. Not exploded, imploded. Bent inward, like their own hulls had turned on them. Something in the structural integrity just collapsed. No enemy fire, no weapons visible. Just quiet, perfect death. Commander Elias Rook watched the carnage from the edge of the command deck, arms crossed, jaw locked, while the Grand Strategist screamed into a calm that wasn't responding. They're not answering, she barked. No visual feed. No telemetry. No survivors. What is this? What are they using? Rook didn't blink. They're not using anything. That's the point. You're expecting missiles. They're using presence. Presence? They're already inside your systems. You can't track them because they're in your code, your language, your sensors. That's how they kill, from inside out. Her eyes narrowed. You're saying they're hacking ships from outside visual range? I'm saying they don't need to see you anymore to kill you. They understand what your fleet thinks. That's not technology. That's psychology turned into a weapon. Below, the second orbital grid tried to retreat. The command from Central Control was a tactical fallback, meant to regroup at the high-mass L point behind the moon. But the message was intercepted, altered mid-packet. Instead, the fleet was redirected straight into the center of the swarm. 14 ships. All gone. One by one, swallowed by the living mass of vessels shaped like knives and tombstones. A technician vomited into his hands. Another collapsed, twitching, after making direct neural contact with the invading code. Rook leaned toward the calm officer. Patch me back in. I want to talk to the flagship. They're not replying. They will. They're listening. They always were. The officer hesitated. Then the channel opened. Rook cleared his throat. Symbiote Command. You're targeting unarmed colonies now. There are children on those orbitals. Pull back. Static answered. Then came the voice, cold, precise, dispassionate. You assume we care about offspring. Survival has no innocence. I'm talking to Cade. Not the creature you became. You were a scientist. You knew ethics. I still do. The ethics of extinction. Do you want to know what they taught us out there, Elias? Pain is instructive. It taught us that surrender was our real sin. You're killing your own people. No. We killed who we used to be. We're not your people anymore. We're what happens after. You buried Earth in compliance. We resurrected it in flame. Elias snapped. You want flame? Keep going. But don't forget, you're not the only monsters Earth made. The comms cut. Alarms blared. A news signal breached the planetary defense net. A single ship broke from formation and dropped into the upper atmosphere. Its surface shimmered as it descended, organic plating shifting into heat-resistant scales. No engines. Just gravity and will. It fell like a spear. It didn't crash. It landed. And it opened. A low, vibrating hum echoed through the capital as the creature ship unspooled its cargo. 6 humanoid figures, each 9 feet tall, armored in fused bone and steel, eyes burning with bioluminescence. They didn't speak. They just began walking. Empire guards opened fire. Pulse rounds bounced off skin that absorbed and redistributed energy. One guard dropped screaming as his weapon melted in his hand. Another ran, only to have his path warped. Literally. The geometry of the corridor bent, folding him into a wall. Rook watched the footage with no surprise. They're deploying reclaimers, he said flatly. You know what they are? The strategist asked, voice breaking. I helped design the prototype. Back before the Empire banned human biofusion. Cade perfected it. These aren't shock troops. These are cultural resets. She stared at him. Cultural what? They're not here to fight. They're here to walk through your cities. To be seen. You'll broadcast their image, and your people will do the rest. You think war defeats empires? No. Shame does. A reclaimer stepped onto the central plaza. Civilians screamed. Broadcast drones hovered overhead. Everywhere, eyes watched the silent Titan walk past memorials to peace, built on Earth's surrender. The reclaimer stopped. It extended a blade, not to strike, but to carve words into the marble steps of the Senate Hall. We remember. Empire morale dropped 30% in under 3 hours. The strategist turned to Rook, sweating. How do we beat them? You don't. Then what the hell are we supposed to do? You negotiate. Or you escalate. But if you escalate, understand one thing, they're not here to win. They're here to erase. You burn their ships, they'll siege your water. You kill one, 3 more will grow. They've gone beyond tactics. This is biology fused with vengeance. Her hand trembled on the table. If I give you clearance, can you stall them? I can try. She nodded once. Rook turned back to the channel. Cade. Still listening? A pause. Then, always. I have a counteroffer. Speak it. You stop your ground incursion. Pull the reclaimers. I'll give you the coordinates to the Empire's gene archive on Erixus Prime. Every file they collected during Earth's occupation. Including the black-grade data you lost in the Exodus fire. The voice posed. That archive was vaporized. No. It was hidden. You know it. I know it. You want to rebuild Earth? You'll need the origin code. And I'm the only one who has it. Rook glanced around. The strategist said nothing. She had no idea if he was bluffing. Truth was, he didn't know either. Cade's voice returned. Send the coordinates. Rook leaned forward. After the reclaimers leave. Silence. Then, agreed. The signal dropped. The command deck held its breath. One by one, the reclaimers turned. Walked back toward the still open creature ship. Boarded. Vanished. The feed cut. The Empire lived another day. Rook turned to the strategist. Don't celebrate. You just bought time. And they're not coming for territory. They're coming for memory. And we gave them enough to drown in. She swallowed hard. What do they want, Commander? He didn't blink. They want us to never forget what we did to them. And now they're going to make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when you corner a species that has nothing left to lose. The Empire's fleet regrouped at the far ring, 5 sectors out from Thren 9, where orbital defenses were still functional and shipyards could mass-produce countermeasures. They called it a strategic relocation. But everyone knew what it was: retreat. Hundreds of ships lost, 6 colonies reduced to ash, and morale bleeding out like atmosphere through a breach. The symbiote Armada hadn't advanced further in 12 hours. Not because they were stopped. Because they were waiting. That terrified everyone more. Commander Elias Rook stood in the center of the Empire's tactical cathedral, surrounded by 6 admirals, each trying to outblame the others. This fleet was engineered for conventional threats. One barked. It's not built for, what the hell do we even call them? Post-biological insurgents. No, Elias interrupted. They're not insurgents. They're heirs. You just don't like what they inherited. A hush settled. The room didn't like truth, but it liked failure less. Another admiral hissed. You're defending them. I'm explaining them. You can't win a war you don't understand. They're terrorists. No, Rook said calmly. Terrorists want to be seen. These things want to be remembered. They're not here for your territory. They're here to make your empire part of their origin myth. A calm burst to life. Screaming. Static. One word repeated in every galactic dialect. Comply. It came from deep inside the Far Ring's databanks, systems never connected to the network. The Empire's Admiralty froze. Rook didn't. He stepped to the terminal and punched in a hard bypass code. A new message appeared. 3 words. Core breach initiated. A planetary capital ship exploded above them. The fireballs swallowed 2 destroyers, and the shockwave broke the upper atmosphere's protective shell. The planet's artificial magnetosphere collapsed, and within minutes, radiation storms shredded communications. They used us as the detonator, Rook muttered. We just armed our own suicide. They hacked the internal failsafes. That's impossible, a tech screamed. No. It's not. They built those failsafes 30 years ago, when they were still us. Another tremor shook the facility. Alarms wailed. Orbital scanners went dark. 6 more signatures emerged near the outer moon, biomechanical constructs shaped like inverted pyramids, each pulsing with gravitational distortions. Rook knew the name. Spire Slicers. They're about to cut the system in half, he said. The Grand Strategist staggered into the room, hair matted with sweat. Deploy the kill codes. Rook turned slowly. You don't have kill codes. We have to have. No. What you have are lockdown signals designed to disable machines. These aren't machines. They're people wearing their own extinction as armor. You don't deactivate something that wants to die. The transmission flared again. But this time it was a voice Rook hadn't heard in years. Familiar. Cold. Measured. Elias. Did you really think we'd forget the day they broadcast Earth's surrender on every channel? I was 12 when I watched our mother's face disappear under orbital light. Cade, Rook said, voice low. You abandoned the Exodus. You stayed behind. You believed they'd spare us if we obeyed. You were wrong. I tried to save the ones left. You became something else. No, brother. I became what Earth should have been. A weapon. A warning. A memory that bites back. One of the admirals drew a weapon and pointed it at Rook. You gave them the archive. You gave them back their history. I gave them the truth. You erased them. They remembered. Enough! The strategist shouted. If we're going down, they go with us. Activate the Omega Array! Everyone froze. Rook's head turned sharply. That's not a weapon. No. It's a protocol. It targets neurofrequencies across all networks. We'll scramble every ship in that fleet. Turn their minds to dust. It targets conscious systems, Rook said slowly. Those aren't just ships. They're fused human minds. You'll destroy what's left of them. Collateral. They're your own people. No. They stopped being that the moment they declared war. They declared memory. You declared denial. She hit the command. Across the system, the Omega signal fired. Pulses arced from deep core satellites. Network traffic surged. For 5 seconds, the bioships buckled, trembled, groaned like whales in agony. And then silence. Then something happened that no one expected. The ships screamed. Not metal. Not alarms. Voices. Thousands of them. Children. Mothers. Soldiers. Civilians. All shouting one word. Never. Then the ships began to evolve. Their hulls twisted, reformed, grew. Pulses turned to blasts. Tentacles of dark matter coiled outward. The Omega signal didn't kill them, it accelerated their metamorphosis. Rook whispered, "You didn't break them. You completed them." Each ship erupted with a new core, burning blue, humming with psionic resonance. The Empire's fleets moved to intercept. They never got the chance. Symbiote dreadforms moved like thoughts, instantaneous, coordinated. In 12 minutes, the far ring was nothing but debris. One last message hit every system left untouched. Phase Omega complete. Initiating Genesis wave. Rook turned toward the last functioning terminal. He punched in a personal code. One locked 30 years ago. A failsafe buried in the Exodus's original charter. A shutdown trigger. It pinged. Live. "Cade," he whispered. "I'm sorry." He pressed send. And the stars blinked. The stars flickered once, then held steady. No explosion. No death wave. No systemic collapse. Just silence. Commander Elias Rook stood motionless, breath caught in his throat, watching the blinking cursor on the terminal. He expected screams. Fire. Collapse. But nothing happened. Not yet. "Cade," he whispered into the dark comms. "Did it work?" The channel crackled, alive with fragmented data. Then, his brother's voice bled through, strained, distorted. "You always had a bad habit of trying to fix things with a kill switch." Rook exhaled. "You didn't stop it. I stopped long enough to listen." Cade's voice was quieter now, less like the godlike resonance from before, more human. "That signal wasn't just a shutdown. You put memory triggers in it. Images. Our mother. Our old dog. The lake. You programmed the fleet to kill everything," Elias said. "I reprogrammed you to remember why we built ships in the first place." Cade didn't respond for a few seconds. Then, "I remember, Elias. I remember too much." Outside, the Armada hovered in place. Pulsing. No longer advancing. No longer firing. Billions of lives in the Empire held their breath, waiting for either judgment or mercy. The Grand Strategist stormed into the control chamber, lips tight, voice like glass. "Why have they stopped?" "They remembered," Elias said. "You shut them down?" "No. I showed them who they were. Who we were." She narrowed her eyes. "This doesn't end with sentiment. They've crippled our fleet. They'll regroup. They didn't come to win. They came to make us listen. And we listened. Now we eliminate them." "You can't," Elias said calmly. "If you fire first, they'll finish the job. But if you speak, if you give them recognition, they'll withdraw. They're murderers." "So are we," Elias said flatly. "We just wore uniforms while doing it." She raised her hand to issue a command. He didn't let her. "You push that button, strategist, and everything your empire pretends to protect dies screaming. They've grown past war. They've become it. You're still playing chess with gods." She hesitated. The room felt like the eye of a hurricane. Cade's voice returned. "You always did like grand speeches." "It's not a speech, Cade. It's a choice. You want legacy? This is it. Pull the fleet back. Leave the Empire to rot from its own decay. You already won. Now don't become what they accused us of being." I can't lead them backward. Then lead them forward. Show them restraint. Show them power with a leash. There was silence again. For too long. Then a pulse rang out across the sector, a signal, tide beam clear. The Armada turned. Slowly. Gracefully. Not retreating, but disengaging. A collective sigh passed through every surviving crew. A breath the galaxy didn't know it had been holding. The strategist stared in disbelief. You convinced him? I reminded him who he used to be. And who I still am. Outside, the fleet's engines glowed, reforming into spiral formations, slipping back toward the null rift. But one ship didn't move. The Wormglass 1, Cade ship, remained. Rook opened the channel. Why are you still here? Cade's voice came soft. Because I don't get to leave. I gave up the right to walk away when I fused my soul to this machine. There's a way to reverse it. Let me. There isn't. The moment I chose vengeance, I chose death. Elias felt a lump in his throat. You think you're the only one who lost everything? Cade continued. I had to become the monster they feared to make them listen. And now that they've heard, the monster doesn't get to stay. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything. The failsafe you activated? It's still running. The ship's core began to glow. Not bright. Just steady. Controlled. The quiet resignation of a mind at peace. Promise me, Cade said, voice wavering. You'll tell them we never forgot. That we didn't want to be gods. We just didn't want to be erased. I will. Cade chuckled. Of course you will. You were always the one who told the truth. Even when it got you locked up. The glow intensified. The structure around Wormglass 1 began to dissolve, peeling away like petals in flame. Goodbye, Elias. Goodbye, brother. The ship imploded into a single point of light, then vanished. No shockwave. No destruction. Just silence. A silence filled with understanding. The strategist sat down, speechless. No one else moved. Elias turned toward the command room. Tell your historians this wasn't a war, he said. It was a reckoning. Later, he stood alone beneath the stars, watching the last of the fleet disappear into the null rift. The galaxy would never be the same. But at least now, it remembered. The aftermath wasn't silence. It was whispers, on every frequency, across every world. Not propaganda, not imperial broadcasts, just quiet fragments of intercepted messages from civilian relays and unmapped stations. They left. Why? No one knows. Are they human? Not anymore. Elias Rook stepped out of the transport onto the scorched surface of the Empire's relay moon, Sector Delta 4, one of the few places spared from total destruction during the incursion. What remained wasn't much: shattered towers, broken comm towers, and a handful of terrified tech crews sifting through what they thought was the end of everything. He'd been sent here not as a hero, but as a loose end. The Empire didn't know what to do with him anymore. A war criminal who saved the galaxy. A traitor who stopped the annihilation. He didn't care. He just wanted one thing: confirmation. A junior officer approached him nervously, holding a data slate. We finished decrypting the last broadcast from Wormglass 1, sir. Elias took the slate without a word and scrolled. No command codes. No final weapon deployment. Just one single, delayed message, pre-programmed to transmit post-mortem, tied to Cade Rook's biometric signature. Let them forget what we looked like. But not why we came. Elias stared at the words. Not a threat. Not a boast. A lament. It struck him harder than he expected. The fleet hadn't returned for conquest. It came to make sure their pain had witnesses. And now that the galaxy had seen it, they could vanish, taking their story with them, sealed behind the rift they disappeared into. A tech called from the relay deck. Sir, we just picked up a short-range signal. Directional. Not from the symbiote fleet. He raised an eyebrow. Show me. A fuzzy stream appeared on the main screen. A human face. Young, scarred, eyes burning with certainty. Not Cade. Someone else. Someone new. This is Captain Arlen Voss of the Second Exodus. We were part of the original fleet that disappeared during Phase 1. We didn't fight. We rebuilt. We listened. And we waited. Elias's grip on the console tightened. We've seen what your empire did to Earth. We saw what Cade did to you in return. We're not here to continue that war. We're here to offer something else. Understanding. Diplomacy. A future. The message paused, then resumed. But let's be clear. We don't forgive. We don't forget. We won't bow. If you want peace, you'll have to earn it. And if you want war, you already know how that ends. The signal cut. Elias turned slowly. The strategist had appeared behind him without a sound. Her face was blank, but her voice wasn't. We lost an empire. He didn't look at her. No. You finally saw what you built. I suppose you expect a statue, a commendation, something to immortalize what you did. No, he said. I expect nothing. Because nothing is what I had when I stood against you. She stepped forward. The fleets are gone. But you know as well as I do, they left seeds behind. They always do. And when those seeds grow into something worse, then you'll wish you listened harder while they were still speaking. She hesitated. Do we prepare for another war? Elias turned, stared directly into her eyes. You prepare for a choice. Because next time, they won't come with warnings. They won't come with memories. They'll come with silence. And by then, you won't be facing ghosts of the past. You'll be facing a species that decided its future doesn't include you. She nodded once. Then she left. Elias stood alone, watching the stars again. His calm buzzed. Another message. This one short. Scrambled. No origin signature. Just a single line. We are not gone. We are growing. He smiled faintly. They thought humanity had peaked with civilization. They were wrong. The peak was when civilization fell, and what climbed out of the wreckage looked up, remembered what it lost, and then decided to become something the stars would fear. Elias turned back toward the relay command center. Begin recording, he ordered. The technician nodded, and the red light blinked to life. This is Commander Elias Rook. Former Imperial officer. Former prisoner. Former everything. I speak now not for Earth, not for the Empire, not for whatever's crawling through the black edges of this galaxy. I speak for memory. He leaned forward. They came because we forgot. Not just them. Us. We forgot who we were when we lost Earth. We let ourselves become soft, arrogant, obedient. And they, our own blood, reminded us in the most painful way what defiance really looks like. His voice hardened. They are not gods. They are not demons. They are the worst version of us, and the best. If we learn from what happened here, we might deserve peace. If not, we deserve extinction. He stared into the lens. So the next time something stirs in the deep dark, don't ask if it's human. Ask if it remembers Earth. Because if it does, pray it's listening. He cut the feed. The silence returned. But now, it was filled with meaning. And that was enough. For now.